So I don't know if I felt out of place or if I'm just so awesome. But we went to like Winchester between the two blocks of rehearsal. And now they were talking about the Broadway shows.
Thank you, Todd. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church. My name is Reverend Christopher Rowe. I serve as the senior minister here alongside my colleague, our interim consulting minister, Reverend Jody Betten, and a wonderful team of staff and volunteers who make our worship possible. And on behalf of everyone who calls this their home, please know how welcome each and every one of you are here, whether this is your very first time with us and we welcome you fully and wholly, or this has been your church of a lifetime, or somewhere in different seasons and in different ways and stages. Each of you has something to bring to this community, and all of you are valued as a whole person when you come into this community. And it is good to be with you. It is good to be with you in a time and a place and a space in our world where community, especially beloved community, is so essential to our collective well-being. Like many of you, I come into this space distraught and grieving the violence in our world, the chaos around our globe, and the uncertainty that lives around us. And so this morning, our candle is lit as a prayer and an intention for peace and peacemaking, a profound gift that can only be known in the presence of beloved community, a community like ours. Will you please take a moment of silence and hold the intention of peace with me? May it be so. May it be so. As we come into this time of connection and worship with one another, our invitation to worship will draw us deeper into the theme of this morning, and it is an excerpt from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Hear these words as they invite us into this time of connection and belonging with one another. The animacy of the world is something we already know. But the language of animacy teeters on extinction, not just for native people, but for everyone. Our toddlers speak of plants and animals as if they were people, extending them self and intention and compassion until we teach them not to. We quickly retain and we retrain and we teach them new ways and we force them to forget. When we tell them that the tree is not a who, but an it, we make that maple an object. As we settle into the truth that is the peace of the wild things, I invite you to take this moment and share that peace and share that love with the neighbors that are around you. You will be called back with our gathering hymn.
Which group? No, I just got it.
Our ancient witness this morning comes to us from the earliest creation myth in the Abrahamic stories, Genesis 1. Hear these words as they stir our contemporary spirit in this beloved community. In the beginning, God created the sky and the earth. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that light and saw that it was good, so they divided the light from the darkness. Evening passed and morning came. This was the first day. Then God said, "Let there be something to divide the water in two." So God made the air and placed some of the water above, and the air and some of the water below it. God named the air sky. Evening passed and morning came. This was the second day. Then God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered together so the dry land will appear." And it happened. God named the dry land earth, and the water that was gathered together seas. God saw that this was good. Then God said, "Let the earth produce plants, some to make grain for seeds and others to make fruits with seeds in them. Every seed will produce more of its own kind of plant." And it happened. God saw that all of this was good. Evening passed and morning came. This was the third day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the sky to separate day from night. These lights will be used for signs, seasons, days, and years. They will be in the sky to give light to the earth." And it happened. So God made two large lights. God made the brighter light to rule the day and made the smaller light to rule the night. God also made the stars. God saw all of these things and said they were good. Evening passed and morning came. This was the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the water be filled with living things, and let the birds fly in the air above the earth." God blessed them and said, "Have many young ones so that you may grow in number. Fill the waters of the seas and let the birds grow in number above the earth." Evening passed and morning came, and this was the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth be filled with animals, each producing more of its own kind. Let there be tame animals and small crawling animals and wild animals, and let each produce more of its kind." And it happened. God saw that that was good. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our own image and likeness, and let them be stewards of the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, the tame animals, all of the earth, and all of the small animals crawling the earth." So God created human beings in God's image. The image of God is from when they were created. God blessed them and said, "Have many children and grow in number. Fill the earth, steward the fish in the sea, and over the birds in the sky shall you care for them. Take care of every living thing on earth." And God said, "Look, I have given you all the plants that have grain for seeds, and all of the trees whose fruits have seeds in them. They will be food for you. I have given all the green plants as food for every wild animal, every bird of the air, and every small crawling animal." And it happened. God looked at everything that was made, and it was very good. Evening passed and morning came. This was the sixth day. Our contemporary witness this morning comes to us from the contemporary poetic prophet Mary Oliver. Hear these words as they call us into consciousness this morning. "My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums, here the calm deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work. which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The Phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture, and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing since all the ingredients are here, which is gratitude. To be given a mind and a heart and this body and these clothes, a mouth from which we can shout shouts of joy to the moth and to the wren, to the sleepy dug-up clam, telling them all over and over how it is that we live forever.
Good morning. Feels like it's been a while since I've been before you, in fact, since chapel, and so it's an honor to be with you again. This past Wednesday was the feast of St. Francis, and thank you, Austin, for that fun song about the animals. Yay, that was lovely. St. Francis, of course, as most of you probably know, was considered a sort of animal whisperer. It is said that he preached to the birds. St. Francis was known for more than that. His was a riches to rags story. Yes, I said that right. He left the business empire that he was privileged to as a son of wealth, gave up his privilege and became a priest. Not only that, but an itinerant priest who lived among the animals and the poor. And his work was to create peace in the world among all creatures, all creation. We could talk for a while about the Middle East, but we won't. We'll let our prayer be where Christopher brought us at the beginning of the service. St. Francis' focus on peace is the reason my spouse and I went to Assisi, Italy, to get married. We imagined that, too, to be an important work of ours. Early fall is a time in the church year seasons when faith communities often focus on creation. It's a beautiful time of the year, for many people their favorite, and it's nice to touch base once in a while with creation. Little facetiousness there. To acknowledge our interdependence on all things, our obligation to creation and the planet. The other significant time might be Earth Day in the spring, April 22nd. I'd like to, for a few minutes, pull on the strings of that web that connects us. For if water dies, we die. If air dies, we die. If creation dies, we die. I feel like one has to choose, however, in our busy, fast-paced urban world, to be in touch with creation. Unless it's your job to be outside. Anyway, I find that I have to be rather intentional. What do you do to stay in touch? Forest bathing, kayaking, camping. My spouse and I, for the last 2 years each summer, have spent a few minutes each day giving some time to monarchs. We intentionally planted milkweed in our yard. Be careful, they will take over. We look for the eggs hiding before the beetles and the bees get them. We bring them safely into our home We watch them turn into microscopic, tiny little caterpillars into huge fat caterpillars, and you can't contain what comes out. We watch them munch the milkweed away and then turn into a jay, in honor of me, of course. And then wriggle to make a chrysalis, and then turn into mush, and then wriggle out of the chrysalis into this remarkable creature that is so different from the way it went in. You know it can only be a miracle. And it's an exercise in patience. But for those few minutes each day, I feel like I'm in touch with something bigger than myself, something that I have no control over, and something that if I don't acknowledge it will diminish me somehow. I'm sure many of you have that connection with critters, precious pets, or the squirrel who comes to the window each day, or the birds at the bird feeder, pesky rabbits in the garden. We have so many opportunities to be up close and personal, if nothing other than a David Attenborough video. Robin Wall Kimmerer, who was mentioned frequently in the chapel service this morning, thank you, chapel people, is another window to creation. In Braiding Sweetgrass, she reminds us that we have removed ourselves from nature by no longer seeing it or describing it as alive. She says we have itted creation, IT. We've turned it into an inanimate object, much of it. We no longer see it as alive, and it is an opportunity then for us to be better than or more important than the it of our world. She suggests that we should reanimate creation. This from Braiding Sweetgrass. Quote, "A bay is a noun only if water is dead. When bay is a noun, it is defined by humans, trapped between its shores and contained by the word. But the verb in Potawatomi, to be a bay, releases the water from its bondage and lets it live. To be a bay holds the wonder that for this moment, the living water has decided to shelter itself between these shores, conversing with cedar roots and a flock of baby mergansers, because it could do otherwise. Become a stream, or an ocean, or a waterfall, and there are verbs for that as well. To be a hill, to be a sandy beach, to be a Saturday. All are possible verbs in a world where everything is alive. Water, land, even a day, the language a mirror for seeing the animacy of the world, the life that pulses through all things." Unquote. Perhaps one way we can begin to see creation anew is to quit itting her and bring pronouns into our language for those things that we normally call it. Spider plants have babies. How can they be it if they're reproducing? Trees, plants have male and female parts. I wonder who will be creative enough to find us the right pronouns to describe plants and water and humus and mountains that are not it. Goodness, we even call our planet Mother Earth, and she is groaning with the pain of our misuse. So let's leave St. Francis and the cute songbirds and the tough questions that we have to live with and turn the corner into next week. Tomorrow is Indigenous Peoples Day. For some, that's a change, hopefully a welcome change. The contrast couldn't be more stark between St. Francis and Christopher Columbus. Columbus was a man who used his power and privilege, and in the name of God and for the sake of his own wealth, committed genocide. Howard Zinn, in The People's History of the United States, quotes from the journal of Bartolomé de las Casas, a young priest who participated in the conquest of Cuba with Columbus. Quote, "Husbands and wives were together only once every 8 or 10 months. And when they met, they were so exhausted and depressed on both sides, they ceased to procreate. As for the newly born, they died early because their mothers, overworked and famished, had no milk to nurse them. And for this reason, while I was in Cuba, 7,000 children died in 3 months. Some mothers even drowned their babies from sheer desperation. In this way, husbands died in the mines, wives died at work, and children died from lack of milk. And in a short time, this land, which was so great, so powerful and fertile, was depopulated. My eyes have seen these acts so foreign to human nature, and now I tremble as I write, so that from 1494 to 1508, over 3 million people perished from war, slavery, and the mines. Who in future generations will believe this? I myself, writing it as a knowledgeable eyewitness, can hardly believe it." Zinn goes on, "Thus began the history 500 years ago of the European invasion of the Indian settlements in the Americas. That beginning, when you read Las Casas, even if his figures are exaggerations, is conquest, slavery, and death. When we read the history books given to children in the United States, it all starts with an heroic adventure. There is no bloodshed, and Columbus Day is a celebration." Unquote. It is important that we remember these truths because they continue to be with us 500 years later. Nations write the history. The winners of wars write the history, not the people who were victims of the wars. The war on the people who lived here first was decimating, so that today, 500 years later, what remains little resembles their ancestors' reality. By all measures, the Native American experience is one of struggle compared to the European American. One horrific example: did you know that Indigenous women and girls are being kidnapped and murdered at an alarming rate? Most of these murders are by non-Native people on Native-owned land, and the lack of communication, combined with jurisdictional issues between state, local, federal, and tribal law enforcement, make it nearly impossible to begin investigative proceedings. Here are some astounding and horrifying statistics. Indigenous women are murdered at the rate of 10 times higher than all other ethnicities. Murder is the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women. More than 4 out of 5 Indigenous women have experienced violence. More than half of all Indigenous women experience sexual violence. And the murder rate of Indigenous women is 3 times higher than that of Anglo-American women. Maybe our social justice team could help us think about ways we can impact that horrific reality. The good news? In 1977, the United Nations, at the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Peoples in the Americas, began discussing the reality of the Native people in America. In 1992, Berkeley, California declared the first Indigenous Peoples Day. And finally, in 2021, the President of the United States declared an official Indigenous Peoples Day, the second Monday of October, instead of Columbus Day. President Biden also appointed the first Native American, Deb Haaland, to the cabinet position Secretary of the Interior. The good news. If we are all connected, and I pull on the strings of my connections with reciprocity and gratitude, I will pass along those realities. Or, as Rachel Carson on the cover of your program says, if we focus our attention on the wonders of the universe, maybe we'll be less inclined to destruction. Or as Mary Oliver said in the contemporary reading, if we learn to be astonished, mostly rejoice, we will be reminded of how we will live forever. Or we can go back to the Hebrew story of creation, where all is created good, and human beings steward that goodness for the creation, for the planet, for the creatures, and for one another. Obviously, there's much more that can be said. And it's a harsh reality that we live with right now as we try to rewind and fix things and to honor what is good and true and right among us. I invite you to take a deep breath, and in this moment of silence, feel your creatureliness, your connectedness with all of creation. And then I invite you to hear the words of St. Francis from the Canticle of All Creatures. Most High, all-powerful, all-good God, all praise is yours. All glory, all honor, and all blessings, to you alone do they belong. Blessed be you with all your creatures, especially Sir, Brother, Sun, who is the day through whom you give us light. Praised be you through Sister Moon and the stars. In the heavens you made them bright, precious and fair. Praised be you through brothers wind and air, and fair and stormy all weather's moods, by which you cherish all that you have made. Praised be you through Sister Water, so useful, humble, precious and pure. Praised be you through Brother Fire, through whom you light the night, and he is beautiful and playful and robust and strong. Praised be you through our sister, Mother Earth, who sustains and governs us, producing varied fruits and colored flowers and herbs. Blessed are those who endure in peace. Teach us to see your design in all of creation. May it be so. Amen. May it be so.
One of the ways in which we tangibly honor our embodied and interconnected and interrelated relationship with the cosmos is the weekly ingathering of our gifts and our resources. As you hear me say week after week, 50% of them stay here to continue this legacy ministry forward that is committed to justice and peacemaking and right relationship and inclusion. And 50% goes beyond these walls into the hands and the entrustment of organizations in our community that can make an even greater impact than we could make on our own. And so in the spirit of awe and wonder and impact beyond ourselves and this one church, the offering will now most graciously be received. We have a number of invitations for you today. It's a big day here at Fountain Street Church. Of course, I always like to invite everyone to the social hall for a time of connection, a time of belonging, and you are welcome to do that, but today also includes a little oomph behind it because there is a lunch prepared for you. Any of you and all of you who wish to partake. The lunch includes different types of soups, a fresh salad, breads from Nantucket Bakery, and maybe even cookies that were being baked during the service. It's a time to connect, a time to just love on one another. And then if you are participating in one of the second Sunday meetings after church, you can go on your way to those meetings. And so, as I mentioned last week, this is the second Sunday. This is the first second Sunday, and it will probably be joyously chaotic, and that's okay. We will learn from it and with it and through it. Every second Sunday of the month, we invite as many groups and teams and committees that would like to meet on this Sunday at 1 o'clock after the free lunch. And the idea is that anybody can participate. If you're visiting, there are at least 9 of them that are open to the public that you can actually come and see. We asked the group leaders if that's okay. It's a nice way to see what's going on, a little bit of taste of Fountain Street Church. And then if you have children or you are responsible for children, we also have childcare available all the way through the end of the meetings. And so this is a way to make our ministries and our programs more inclusive, more accessible, easier to manage for those who don't want to come back in the middle of the week. And so please, if you are interested in this today, stick around, or at least come for the lunch. And then if you are sticking around, the meetings will begin by 1 o'clock in your assigned meeting rooms. We have posters all over the church house telling you where to go for your respective meetings. That is today. And families, I do want to say that you will need to pick up your children for lunch, and then they can go back to childcare. So we're going to let our childcare staff have a brief break, and then they can go back at 1 o'clock when you go to your meetings. So please stick around for that. Also, if that's not enough, if you're looking for a real treat, you can get your flu shot today on the mezzanine. I had to evade them, and they said they were going to chase me down till I got it. So they are there, and they are eager to give you a shot if you haven't gotten your flu shot already. So please find your way to the mezzanine if you would like a free flu shot. It is that season. And then after you've eaten, you've gotten your shot, you've had a meeting or gone to a social group, at 2 o'clock we have a beautiful offering back in the social hall, and that is the gift of song. It is a time of music and reflection put on by the Grand Rapids Threshold Choir. We have many members from our own church who are in that choir. It will be in the social hall, and it'll just be a healing place to center yourself. It could be a place for those who are grieving, who are lonely or in need of connection. It could be a place for those who just need to sit and rest with everything. And I mean everything that is going on in our world. So please don't miss out on that wonderful opportunity at 2 o'clock to go to the gift of song in the social hall. Next week, we have a town hall after the service that I hope you will consider going to. And that, again, is this continued dialogue that our church is in about the tower and the building and the next 100 years here in this building. And so please mark your calendars for that. Even if you have been to one of them already, this is another opportunity to hear some of the things people are talking about. And it's just a good way to see your peers express their own thoughts and ideas. So please prepare to be part of that. I want to thank everyone who made today's lovely service possible. A huge thank you to Reverend Jody. A huge thank you to Todd. A huge thank you to the choir and to Austin. A huge thank you to our AV staff and the ushers and everybody in the kitchen who's been working. I know Linda Welke has been helping with that tremendously. A huge thank you to everyone upstairs. It takes a village. It takes an interconnected and interrelated village to move this ministry forward, and what a gift it is to share it with all of you. As we go forth from this place, remember that you are the embodiment and the incarnation of peace and love in a world that desperately, desperately needs your witness and your presence. So go forth renewed by the power of this holy community. Go forth renewed by the power of love and the pursuit of peace. We'll see you next week.